हाँ भाई, क्या हाल? So in this video we will try to generate a list which is clickable so that we can go on to a particular blog. In the previous videos we discussed how we can get the array of objects of the metadata of the blogs. So now we can actually render those blogs on our website. So if we go over to the completed blog, we can see that there is a list of blogs, and if I click on this particular links, it migrates me to /blog/the blog ID on which the HTML of the particular blog is rendered. So essentially what we need on our screen is a list of all the blogs, and whenever I click on this particular blog, I am taken to the URL /blog/the ID of the particular blog, so that we can use this ID to get the HTML from our get post data function, which takes in an ID as a parameter to return the HTML of that particular blog. So now we already have the array of object which has all the metadata that we require to render this list. So let me just render the list real quick. After mapping on this all post data array, what I'm doing is I'm basically rendering a link to /blog/post.id, and inside this link the text is the title of the post, and I have also added the description of this particular post right below the link. So how am I getting this description, ID and title? This is part of the metadata in every blog which we are getting in this in this all post data array. It is an array of object with all of these properties. Alright, so now if we look over to our website, this is what it currently looks like. We have a link to a particular blog with its description at the bottom of that particular link. Now if I click on this link, it will migrate me to the correct place, but it doesn't exist because we haven't really created it yet. So what we need is this ID inside of that particular page, and this page is to be present in /blog/ID. So in Next.js, what we can do for this ID is we can create sort of let me just show you. So I have created a function called blog, and inside this folder, inside this folder, all I need to do is add square brackets and then ID and then tsx. So after creating this square bracket id.tsx file, inside that file we can access this ID that is present inside the square boxes by using the use router hook that is provided by Next.js. So if we look over to the code, I have imported use router from next/router, and then I have accessed the router from the use router hook, and then I have destructured ID from the router.query. What is query? Query is nothing but the query params of the particular URL, right? I have this ID. Now all I need to do is get the HTML for a particular blog using this ID. But first, let me just render this particular ID on the screen so that we have a better understanding of how this is working. So this is how this looks like. So this is the static HTML, but this is the dynamic ID of this particular blog, which is 1-demo blog for this particular one. If we go back and click on the second link, what we will see is the ID of the second blog. Now all we need to do is use that get post data function to get the HTML for this blog using this ID. So let me just implement that real quick. So I have implemented the get static props for this particular page, in which we have the params object by default if we destructure the arguments that we are getting in this callback function. So this params has the ID in it, so we don't actually require this use router. I used it just to show you how we can get the ID if we need it, because the get static props already has this ID in the params argument that we can get by destructuring it. Now I have stored the post data in this variable after awaiting the result of this get post data function that we implemented a couple of videos ago, I think, by passing in params.id as string, and it is returning the post data as we expect it to. Now if we get this post data here by destructuring the props and then for now giving it any type, now if we console log this post data, on the client it is undefined. Okay, so we just ran into an error which says get static paths is required for dynamically server side generated pages and is missing for blog/:id. So what this means is, for rendering the statically generated pages, Next.js needs to know all the pages that will be generated. For that, it needs a function which returns all the IDs. So let's just create a function real quick that gives it all the IDs. So I have created a function, as you can see on the screen, which is get all post IDs, which reads the directory and then goes through all the files in it and then creates an array of strings, the IDs of all the blogs that are present in it. If you watch the previous videos, you can understand this function extremely clearly. Now all I need to do is use this function in a get static paths function present in the :id.ts, the blog/id. So all I need to do is export a get static paths function in which I basically return all the paths. I have completed this function, and as you can see in the function body, the paths variable stores all the IDs of the blogs in an array. So for the time being, let me just console log it to show you guys how it looks like, and then we are returning the paths in the return object. So let's just see on our client, or rather server, because this code will be executed on the server, the array of IDs. So here it is, the array of IDs that this get static path function is exporting. Now I think the code will run and we will be able to see this post data on our front end. Let me just open it. So yeah, we can see the object which has the data for this particular blog. So we have cover image, date, description, as well as the HTML for our blog. Now if I open it, it is really long, right? So what I can do is, I guess, edit it. Yeah, I can just copy it and then paste it here for the timing. So nope, I guess I'll have to render it to show you. So what I can do is, okay, so I have rendered the post data in a stringified format on the screen so that we can see the HTML and stuff. Now if we go over here, we can actually see the HTML that will be rendered on our page, right? You can see that. Let me just format it a little bit better. Instead of it being in a h1, I can add it in a pre so that we can actually see it. Now in this content HTML, as you can see, this is HTML, strong, P for the paragraph tag and stuff. So we have the HTML. All we need to do now is render it on our screen. Okay, so if we look over to the code, what I have written here is an h1 tag with the title in its body, like so that we can see the title of our particular blog in an h1 tag, and then there is a div with the special, like, attribute dangerously set inner HTML. What this will do is, inside this particular div, it will set the HTML. Why is it saying dangerously? Because if we are not doing this properly, it can cause some security issues on our website. But because we know the HTML that we are setting, because we have wrote it ourselves, we can use this safely. This is not really dangerous for us and this particular project. Now if I go over to the client, I should be able to see this formatted and rendered HTML, and voila, we have a blog website up and running. So this is the blog with all the images. Yeah, obviously it is not formatted properly, the UI sucks, because we are currently focused on implementing the main stuff. We can do the styling later also. So we have the blog rendered on our screen. How cool is that? So if we go over to the second blog, again it is being rendered, right? So this is how rendering works. This is how we can get the HTML, show it on the screen. This is how things work in Next.js. So in the next couple of videos, we will try to discuss some more features of Next.js, which are layouts, image optimization, and font optimization. And after we have past that particular stage, we can focus on styling this and then build the guest book out. So see you in the next videos. Bye.